Albert Pike, 1809–1891. Albert Pike was a lawyer who was a central figure in the development of Freemasonry. Pike was a 33rd degree Mason and head of the Southern Masonic jurisdiction of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. He is referred to as Sovereign Pontiff of Universal Freemasonry, the Prophet of Freemasonry, and the greatest Freemason of the 19th century. He was also an American author, poet, orator, and senior officer of the Confederate States Army. He was chosen to coordinate Illuminati activities in the United States and is the only military figure to be honored with an outdoor statue in Washington, D.C. He is remembered for predicting 3 world wars, and it is said that he was fascinated with the idea of a one-world government. He said they needed to create a political party that would keep the world fighting until they could bring peace. This peace is not the one the Prince of Peace Jesus brings, but the one brought by the Antichrist, which indeed will happen after the Third World War. But it is a false peace, and 1 Thessalonians 5:3 warns us about this false peace. For when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. Pike said it would be done with tongue and pen, with all our open and secret influences, with the purse, and if need be, with the sword. In 1871 he wrote the 861-page Masonic handbook known as the Morals and Dogma of the ancient and accepted rite of Freemasonry. It is said he was a Satanist who indulged in the occult and possessed a bracelet he used to summon Lucifer, with whom he had constant communication. He was the Grand Master of a Luciferian group known as the Order of the Palladium, or Sovereign Council of Wisdom, which had been founded in Paris in 1737. He introduced this cult into the inner circle of the Masonic lodges. On July 14, 1889, Pike issued this statement to the 24 Supreme Councils of the world, who were meeting in Paris. The Masonic religion should be, by all of us, initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. It is extremely interesting that he refers to Freemasonry as a religion, and yet Freemasons say it is not a religion. So when he writes in Morals and Dogma that the Christian, the Jew, the Muslim, the Buddhist, the follower of Confucius and Zoroaster can unite as brothers and join in prayer to the only God who is above all others, one wonders which God he is talking about here. Pike believed and stated that Lucifer is God. And here is another deception which I am seeing being pushed so much on social media, explaining that Luciferianism and Satanism are different, that Lucifer and Satan are different, and that Satan is bad while Lucifer is good. There is a popular argument these days that the Bible never calls Satan Lucifer. The argument is based on Isaiah 14:12. At this point, I request you to read the whole of chapter 14 of Isaiah to understand the discussion better. Isaiah 14:12 says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations?" What is translated there as Lucifer are the Hebrew words for morning star. Now Isaiah 14 is a taunt against the king of Babylon, but if you read it, you see he's talking about both the physical king and the spiritual king, or the principality that rules over Babylon. Just like Ezekiel 28:12-19 is addressed to the king of Tyre, but clearly you can see it is addressed to the principality that ruled over Tyre, which seems to be Lucifer himself. Please read that whole passage also. In the final part of verse 17, God says, "I threw you to the earth," which is similar to Isaiah 14:12. In Luke 10:18, Jesus says, "I saw Satan fall from heaven like lightning." In Daniel 10:12, there is mentioned the principality that rules over Persia, and he is referred to as the Prince of Persia, and in verse 20, the one over Greece is referred to as the price of Greece. So these verses prove 2 things. 1, the Bible should be read and interpreted as a whole. This means when interpreting passages in the Bible, they should not be read in isolation, as if they are alone, but in consideration of the context within which the words are used and in conjunction with other verses that are similar. Those saying Isaiah 14:12 does not refer to Satan obviously did not consider this. 2, Every time the Bible talks of a king of prince, again context, will let you know it does not always a physical king, but a demon that rules over the area. So, do not be deceived, Lucifer is Satan. As the return of Christ nears, Revelation 13 says a time will come when the whole world will worship Lucifer and his Antichrist. The journey to that has started with people trying to convince us that Satan and Lucifer are different. This has given rise to Luciferianism, which we see Albert Pike, the Illuminati, and all the other disciples we have talked about ascribe to. Aleister Crowley has a poem called Hymn to Lucifer, where he praises Lucifer with these words: breathed life into the sterile universe, with love and knowledge drove out innocence, the key of joy is disobedience.